Wherever we go around the world, I see something that is unique about the United States, more so than any other culture or country or region, and that is our absolute commitment to getting stuff. Whether it is electronics, what we drive, where we live, what we wear, what we put on our knick-knack shelves, consumerism is part of living out the American dream.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yes. I've suspected that, I've heard that is a particularly American thing. It's always interesting hearing from people like you that have been around who can also point to that. And I'm interested in what are the particularly American cultural phenomenon that has led to that. But clearly I live within that. I've grown up within that, and I'm probably affected by that more than I even know.
And it's, you know, it's evident in things like the sheer number of advertisements we have around us. You know, you can't get on a bus, you can't get on a train, you can't drive to the airport, you can't walk through the airport. You're just constantly bombarded on go here, do this, wear this, buy this. So, well, my name is Dan. I am one of the teaching pastors at Life Fellowship in suburban Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm with our executive producer, Josh Brahm. And today we're going to be talking about just the notion of consumerism from a biblical worldview, from a Christian worldview, but also for some practical steps as well. So, Josh, the other day, I'm at this stage with my adult children where we spend our basic form of communication is sending each other memes.
Oh, see, this is good. I like this. I love this.
That and I don't have TikTok. A couple of my kids do, but most TikTok video or shorts or whatever are also on Instagram Reels or they're on YouTube
Shorts or whatever.
Yeah. So I get a lot of those as well.
Yeah.
There's always usually a little twist to them, a little goading of dad or something, you know. So my daughter sent me one yesterday, and it was a picture of somebody whose parents had just died. And they had this huge counter, an island, and large table in their living room, sunroom area, and it was covered with candles. Nothing but candles.
like the memorial in the house.
It was. She had collected candles and they'd burn halfway down, but she just couldn't bear to throw them away, or she got them for birthday and for Christmas. But it was just
decades and decades worth of candles from everywhere.
Yeah, and my daughter and my daughter is the only person on the planet who perhaps is more sarcastic than me, said, "This is my greatest fear when you die, that you and mom are going to leave me this kind of mess, and I'm going to have to disappear for 6 months just to go through it."
Do you guys collect candles?
No, we don't collect candles.
What do you have a lot of?
I'm not the collector. My wife usually doesn't listen to the podcast, so I'm going to get away with this. But, you know, in every marriage...
No one say anything.
Don't forward this to her.
Dan's wife, okay?
Yeah, but I'm the purger and she's the collector. And about 20 years ago, I just kind of gave up. So I've made a joke about it, and she knows I joke about this. Like the first few years we were married back in the 80s, collectibles were very popular, and one of them was precious moments.
My mom was into precious moments.
Well, thank you for making me feel old.
Ornaments. Oh my gosh. Yes, we had
our entire wedding was a precious moments wedding theme. We had banners. It was the top layer of our cake was a precious moment figurine of a wedding cake.
No, they did weddings. Of course they do weddings. It's a whole nother demographic.
Oh, it's just amazing. And so every time I did something stupid, or it was a birthday or holiday or something that needed to come up, I bought her another precious moments.
Yeah.
And in those days, they weren't super expensive. They'd be $25 to $35. The big ones were, the rare ones were 75 or 80 or whatever. But anyway, we have over 200 of them.
200. You have been such a faithful husband.
No. That was how much I was saying stupid stuff the first 3 or 4 years of our marriage, because I finally got to, I'm not buying these anymore. But they're still there. They are still, and I have an entire curio cabinet that's filled with them. Not only that,
That's hilarious.
my wife is going to kill me, but she thought that they were going to increase in value and they're more valuable if they have the original box. So we have all the original boxes in our attic.
I mean, they're less likely to break in the original box.
Well,
you at least have that.
My
You store
daughter
them easily.
My daughter announced
warehouse.
at Christmas one day in a very dramatic fashion that, Dad, either you get rid of those or I'm telling you that when you all die, I'm putting them all in the driveway and I'm going to take my car and run back and forth over them until they're powdered.
Oh my goodness! At least sell them.
Well, they're worth about $1 a dozen now, I think.
Right.
So, but anyway, and we joke about it or whatever. But I think all of us need to be honest that it is very easy to get swept up into,
All the guys making fun of your wife in their head right now are also some of them the ones that collect the new iPhone every year or that, need to get the latest computer. Like other people have their thing. People have guitars or there's other things guys get into video games.
I just had a conversation with one of my very favorite people on the planet who I've been mentoring, and he's getting married shortly. And yesterday he told me he's going to buy a $2,000 guitar and wanted to know what I thought about it. Well, don't ask Dan what he thinks unless you're ready for it.
There's really good guitars you can get for $2,000.
Yeah. So, and I'm thinking, dude, you're getting married
right before
in
you're
3
married,
months. This is not a good choice.
It's probably not the time.
But there's items that I would probably would have been of interest to buy.
What did you struggle with? Did you have any consumerism temptations
No, I've never. That's never been a deal with me.
This has not been your thing.
But I am a hoarder or collector, like books.
Okay.
Books are really bad for me.
Interesting.
I've got many. I had 3 libraries at one time: one at work, one at home, and one in my mountain home.
3.
Yeah, and
you wait. I understand the first. You had a library in your mountain home. You brought enough books to read on vacation that you've got a library in your mountain.
Yeah, and I ran out of space.
Remarkable.
I ran out of space to store them in the other 2 places, so that became my 3rd library. And then when I sold the mountain home, then now they're in a closet in boxes, and now I'm going to ebooks, so they don't take as much space up. But that and if you go into my garage right now, there's probably 1,500 to 2,000 succulents.
Succulents?
I raise succulents. I know it's weird.
Wait. Wait. Okay. I understand basically what succulents are. My wife has several. Mm-hmm. We have probably, let's say we have at least a dozen probably of these things around the house. And there have been little times that I've been in charge of watering all of these things while Hannah's gone. Mm-hmm. Okay. So are these all I don't even know if this is a good question. Living succulents? Are these still
Yeah, they're all alive.
There's 1,500 to 2,000 of them?
That's just the ones in my garage. I also have a sunroom full of them.
Do you have to maintain them at all, or are these don't have to do anything?
The good thing about succulents is they thrive under neglect, but they do require some maintenance. I have grow lights out there, so if you drive by my house at night, it looks like I'm growing pot.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, my kids are like, Dad, cops are going to come see you someday. But yeah, and I have to water them every 6 to 8 weeks during the winter time. And then when I bring them out, I have to do it very gradually because they sunburn very easily. But so
why? Answer everyone's question. Why?
I have this thing about gardening and being in the dirt. That's my happy place.
Yeah, you've said that before.
Yeah, I don't have. I used to have chickens. And I don't have any space to be able to do that. So I bought a succulent a few years ago, and I learned about it, and they're gorgeous. They're beautiful. They're stunning. Yeah. And there's 300 different kinds of them. So I started to say, well, I'm going to see how many of them I can collect.
Okay.
But then they propagate very uniquely. They're very unusual. Some of them have little babies that fall off the ends of their leaves. Others, you break a leaf off, and a little baby comes off of where the leaf joined the stem. Others, you break them off, and you stick them in the dirt, and they take off again. There's just all different kinds of ways to and I find that fascinating.
Okay.
So and so I have a bit of a green thumb, and they flourished. And so then I started I got all these babies. I can't kill the babies. It's like aborting plants. I can't do this.
Gosh. Too pro-life.
So I started, and they just kept growing and growing and growing. And so then I started going to, this is getting a weird story. This is going to be the whole episode. I
am so happy we're doing this. We will have to do a part 2, obviously, but I need to know. I have more questions.
So this feeds my obsession. So I go to like Goodwill and Restores and all those secondhand stores, and I buy pots, for 50 cents a dollar a piece. And I pot them, and then I sell them on Facebook Marketplace and different places. And I take the money, and every dime I get, I give to Cuba. So now you see, I have rationalized my obsession by saying,
this goes deep.
Yeah, I probably only make about $1,000 a year to go to Cuba, and you considering all the expense and electricity and potting soil and everything. But anyway, it gets me out of the house.
Okay. Wait. Okay. So you've bought like 300-ish of these, and the rest, like, because they took over your garage?
Yeah. I mean, I buy, when I see one I don't have, I buy it, and then I try to propagate it, and then I start with one and I'll have 50. and some are more fertile than others, and some are tricky to raise, and I learn and experiment, and yeah.
So here's a deeper question for you. It's like let's camp here for a little bit. This is interesting because you've made enough fun of your wife on this.
Yes.
I'm interested in the compare and contrast here because, like, on its face, precious moments figurines seem to have less, instrumental value than that. I mean, obviously, just the fact that you've been able to sell succulents at all, I mean, like, that already clears that. But like beyond that, the green thumb thing is good for you to get out of the house. It's good for you to do something with your hands. Like, I should be doing more stuff with my hands because I've heard this thing, like the people that use your mind all the time, you should do hobbies with your hands and vice versa. And I don't have enough stuff that I do with my, so this is great. This is so much healthier than what I'm currently am.
It's not like I'm drinking.
Right. You're not drinking. So there's some contrast here. But probably there's also maybe some overlap in the, like, is there anything unhealthy, anything that you would have done differently looking back with succulents? Because clearly some of this is a good thing.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes to where I'm wanting to go with the whole topic is this. God's given us interests and hobbies, and I don't see anything in Scripture that says you shouldn't collect salt shakers from Dollywood or whatever, because you see all these weird things people collect, or toothpick holders. I had a grandmother who collected toothpick holders. It's a distraction. It's a hobby. It's fun. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that any more than anything wrong with watching a TV series or something. No. But I do think we have to make sure that we do so as with everything else in our life, whether it is a hobby like playing golf or watching sports or playing video games or eating or sleeping, anything you enjoy, without some, the Bible talks about moderation a lot, and most of us don't. Yeah. And so any interest can become an obsession. An obsession can eventually take over your life, whether it's eating or sex or reading or, and so I think that's where the American consumerism has become so much a part of our culture that it has jumped the shark, so to speak, and become part of our ethos. And whether it's something silly like collecting, the stuff you see at these roadside gas stations and tourist areas, or whether it's just simply saying, you know what, I've got to have the best of everything. I've got to have the newest computer or newest technology. Yeah. I got to have the iPhone 27 and not the 26. Yeah. And as soon as it comes out, I'm in line at the Apple store waiting to get it.
I could become that person.
Yeah.
There is a version of that.
And I think this is an important thing to know. I don't think any of us can stand or sit here and say, this is not something I ever deal with. Yeah. I think we all have to say, what do I deal with in this way in my life?
Yes.
And so consumerism is a broad term that I think really relates to a deeper question about what do we really value and why do we pursue what we pursue. And again, whether it's, I know people who grow roses. I know people who raise tropical fish. I know, and there's nothing intrinsically wrong. I'm wired so that I feel like, well, if I make a little money at it or I can give it away, that it sometimes justifies it. Right. But that's just a rationalization. Let's be honest. It's just a rationalization. And the other thing is I hate your obsession, but I really love mine. So I can take shots at my wife's precious moments or whatever she's collecting at any moment in time and say, well, mine's justified, but
Right.
I don't like to look at her cabinet and she doesn't like to look at my garage shelves because
Right.
there lies our obsessions. But so that's why in this episode and the next one to come, I think what I want to do is do a little critical thinking as it relates to how much we buy, how much we pursue, how much we invest our resources in, and for what cause. And is it time for us to do a little examining or a little bit of reevaluation? At the same time, like the Shakers and to some extent the Amish, you can almost take the other side of it. People don't know this. I grew right outside of an Amish settlement. Amish people are filthy rich.
Really?
Oh, yes, they're
I don't
filthy.
know that.
Well, they don't spend their money on anything.
I guess I
what
don't know what they make. Do they make a lot of money?
Oh, yeah. Because they don't, whatever they make is profit. Because they don't believe in debt.
Do they sell a lot of stuff? Are they farming? Is it like maybe an agriculture? I know I'm kind of ignorant about that. I don't.
So the one where
there's a lot in Ohio, I know.
When I was growing up, the ones I was, it was all farming, dairy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they branched out. I mean, they have their own stores, and the English, that's what they call us, the English come and support it. We buy their candy. They even have like a Lowe's out in the middle of the country. It's like a Lowe's. Gas lights. They don't have any electricity except for one cell phone, which they use for when the English come with credit cards.
I want to go to the Amish Lowe's. Yeah, that would be very interesting.
It is really weird. It is, because it's like a hardware store, and they sell feed and and stuff that they make from their community. Yeah. But I know another guy. All he makes is playground equipment.
Do they also collect, though? Is that also a thing? Because you mentioned
they don't collect.
They don't collect.
You go into their houses. It's very stark.
Interesting.
But they don't own vehicles, because this is old order.
Right.
So they don't own vehicles.
Yep.
They don't go into debt.
Yep.
Land, it appreciates over time. They live very simple lives. They don't have utilities.
Yep.
They don't believe in health insurance or life insurance. So a lot of and yet at the same time, when they take their grain to be sold at the co-op or whatever, it's not like it's discounted because it's from them. They're making our level of income or better, and at the same time they have virtually no outgo. So they buy more land. They buy the farms up all over the place in north central Missouri, and that's what they've done in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and other places. They have these huge, massive farms. They don't produce the way English farms do because they don't use tractors.
They're not using big equipment.
But the land is still there.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched a guy one day have a truck pull up and made a delivery of stuff that he was selling at his big, and he had sheet metal. And there was tons and tons of sheet metal because they use that for the roofs and the barns and galvanized metal. And it came time to pay. The guy presented him an invoice. He pulled out a wad of $100 bills. I'm serious. I couldn't got my fist around. He peeled off $100 bills because they don't use the banking like we do. And he just kept rolling out $100 bills and handed him a wad that's probably 2.5 inches thick and paid for it in cash. Boom, just like that. So so the Amish, it's interesting. They've accrued and they would say they don't accrue wealth for themselves. They invest it back in their community with their children and buying land and so forth. So it's and they grow their own food and all those different things. But the fact is, many people today are living in bondage because of consumerism.
Right, because they're not doing that. They're so the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and obviously Amish are at one end of the spectrum. And then you go to the parts of the world, like I go to Africa and India and so forth, where they have no money to spend.
Yeah.
And so they live very stark lives in cardboard huts and dirt floors and calendars from 20 years ago on the wall for decorations. And they do that because they have to. And then I go into my home with 200 precious moments in it and 2,000. And I think, wow, how can I justify some of the ways I spend my money when I know there are other people who would love to have what I throw away every year.
Yeah.
So that's why I think talking about this is important, and that's why we're going to take a couple of episodes and examine this a little bit, because the influence of consumerism from an evangelical Christian perspective means that we should be thinking and aligning our life, our family, our values with biblical principles on resources that God gives us. It has to do with stewardship. It has to do with the Bible says, godliness with contentment is great gain. And yet so many Christians today walk around constantly discontent because we're comparing ourselves to the guy down the street or across the road. And the question is, are we viewing ourselves as aliens who are here for a purpose that this is a transitional location for us? Or do we think this is as good as it gets? And therefore, I must accrue and do and experience and collect as much as I possibly can because this is all there is. Now, we would say, of course not. I know I'm going to heaven when I die. I know this world is not my home. I'm just passing through. I know all those things. But sometimes our actions don't align with our words in this area.
Yeah.
And so I think we ought to look at some practical steps on this.
Yeah. I love it.
All right. Well, that's what we're going to do on our next episode of Life Talks. This was the introduction to Consumerism 101.
We have learned a lot about Dan.
Probably some stuff you didn't want to learn
today. No, this is exciting. I am glad to know that you have a bunch of succulents that you grow.
Well, if you ever, or if
a
any
bunch
of
is
you
not
listen,
the right word. You have a few thousand. You have a few millennia of succulents.
If anybody ever wants to start a succulent garden, I sell them wholesale. I sell them in arrangements, and I don't keep a single dime. It all goes to Cuba.
Go to charity.
100%.
That's really cool. And it keeps him out of the house. I mean, I imagine your wife is happier, right?
She cannot be more thrilled. I put my AirPods in and I go out on the back porch and she won't see me for 3 hours while I'm puttering in the dirt, replanting and transplanting and propagating my succulents.
I still support that. I still think that is a really healthy thing. I hope that like 6 or 12 months from now, I am closer to you in this area because I should be spending more time doing something with
and it really is. And some people paint and some people, I used to write a lot. I don't do as much as I used to. But I think everybody ought to have some kind of outlet that's a little bit mindless. Yeah. And I find if I don't put my AirPods in, I have great conversations with God. I have, deep thoughts that I would not otherwise. I used to love to mow my grass for the same reason because it's mindless. You go in circles.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm solving complex mathematical equations while I'm doing it. And I think part of that goes back to my agrarian childhood growing up, counting cows and plowing fields. But some of the most profound thoughts I've ever had and the most important conversations I've ever had with God were times when I detached. So, yeah, hobbies are good. I am not a more spiritual man when I go golfing than when I started because I find golf very frustrating. But for other people, that's their thing. I'm not saying don't have a good time with the resources God gives. I am saying is we need to look at it. That's what we'll do next time on Life Talks as we continue our conversation about consumerism. We always appreciate the fact you listen to us. Hey, this morning I got an email from somebody with 5 great ideas on future episodes of Life Talks. So we're going to be rolling those out in a few weeks. But I hope you'll share us. By the way, we're on Spotify. We are on iTunes. We're on Podbean. We're on a whole bunch of, and then you can always watch us if you want to on YouTube.
There's apparently a bunch of people until recently didn't know that this is on YouTube now.
That is amazing to me. Yeah. So, and would you share us on social media when you get a chance? We always appreciate you letting other people know about it. But just thank you so much for joining us here at Life Talks, and we'll catch you next time.